We're live.
We are live and we are back.
Like we never left. All right. So what's been going down?
Oh, not much. Just, well, as you can see, there's a bit of uncertainty almost, if you will, to the way that this will come out, sound. I'm looking at the computer. We got the lights. We got the camera. Hopefully the angle's good. Hopefully this is more favorable to the YouTube algorithm, but also more comfortable for us.
Yeah.
I hope this is comfortable.
No, this is great.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the couch.
Yeah.
Set up. I love it.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, for everybody that doesn't know, this is Russ Powell, registered dietitian.
Yes, Russ Powell, registered dietitian and certified diabetes care and education specialist. Focus on getting you to a place to where you can manage your diabetes without being strangled by this disease and it taking over your life.
Distinguished co-host and very good friend.
Yes.
And somebody who is a synergistic partner, but also an integral part of the Paramount Chiropractic and Wellness community.
Absolutely. We're doing things, helping people, cracking backs and snacks.
Cracking necks and cashing checks, as my classmate Brennan would say.
Oh my God. So this episode is kind of a piggyback on what we talked about in earlier episodes where you can't outperform a bad diet. And so we're going to kind of hone in on a topic that we often hear patients struggle with, the concept of fueling for performance, especially if someone's trying to lose weight. They ultimately think that they're not supposed to eat and they should just exercise like crazy, but it doesn't work like that. And if you want to perform, also have longevity in that particular activity that you're participating in. And also too, for those who are dealing with insulin resistance, exercise is paramount in terms of helping you get some of your reserve back in terms of your pancreatic function, but also too reducing the amount of medications that you're on because exercise acts like insulin.
Exercise has the insulin-like effect.
Yes.
I remember them talking about that in school all the time.
Yes, it does. It does. And the first place where insulin resistance set in is at the musculoskeletal level. That's where insulin resistance first set in, because 70% of our glucose after we eat is stored in our muscles. 70%. But if you're not mobile or active, it doesn't have the capacity to suck up the glucose. And so that's why exercise is essential, and you have to fuel for it, because exercise, your muscles need energy. And it has an energy requirement that must be maintained in order to burn the maximum amount of calories. You have to nourish and fuel that muscle. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about on how to balance out those macronutrients, when to eat, a high level on what to eat. There may be a freebie that would be attached to this podcast to kind of give you an idea of like how to organize your week in terms of exercise and how to eat before and how to eat after your exercise. And I'm going to also address, because I get this a lot, should I eat before I exercise or should I eat after? I am asked that question so much. So after this podcast, you will definitely know the answer to that and how to fuel. So we're going to go through all the things today. Is that okay?
Oh, that's more than okay. I'm happy. And,
okay.
I'm going to let you, take the lead on this, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I do have a question before we jump into it.
Yeah.
Because you see tons of people who have maybe limitations in terms of their ability to exercise. Maybe it's attached to weight, or maybe it's attached to some type of like joint muscular issue. What have you seen in terms of people fueling for performance? How has that helped them in terms of getting the most return out of their adjustments in terms of how the types of foods that they're eating and types of exercise that they're doing?
Well,
have you seen a connection?
Yeah, there's, like almost like a twofold part answer for this. And one is, if I see somebody who has a joint limitation, let's say, so an injury, whether it is from weight or and typically we see people with bad hips and bad knees that carry a lot of extra weight. But if someone has a bad back, they might be, lean. I mean, historically, I think I'm pretty lean.
Yeah.
And I've been athletic for a while, and I had a horrible back.
Yeah.
And so one is just getting like the right adjustments to the right joint, reducing pain, increasing range of motion, and then they're able to, excel. I can definitely now do the second part of the question, which is from a supplementation standpoint, magnesium malate and fish oil seem to help when they're in the diet from a supplementation, reducing lactic acid and kind of help oiling the joints. Mm-hmm. And then from a performance nutrition standpoint, which is what we'll talk about more, I find that people that really pay attention to hydration and really pay attention to the proper fats and pay attention to the right glucose. This is excluding like protein talks, right? Mm-hmm. So just making sure that they have appropriate type of glucose, bananas, oranges, apples, strawberries, berries, having the appropriate kind of fats, avocados, nut butter, almonds, they really do a lot better than somebody who's probably fasting or starving themselves through windows because they're on a mission to lose weight. They're dehydrated like crazy. They get tons of muscle cramps. They don't understand why they should probably have electrolytes, which most people don't even really get, what like electrolytes are or how to implement them. But then they're just drinking like too much water and or not even enough water in some cases. And then they don't perform. So yeah.
You have hit some heavy hitters, and definitely the hydration part.
Yeah.
That is something that whenever I'm coaching athletes, especially in Texas, we're in Texas, guys, especially in Texas if they're doing 2-a-days and they're sweating like crazy and they just think that, I'm drinking water. You have lost so many electrolytes practicing or performing in this heat. And so you start getting the muscle cramps and the Charlie horses and even heat exhaustion, heat stroke, that sort of thing. Is so dangerous. But hydration is so essential just in terms of pushing the nutrients where it's supposed to be and also helping that muscle fire because it's the medium to transport your electrolytes. But just even 1% dehydration could decline your performance by 10%. So if you're a professional athlete, 10% decline in your performance and your time, that could be the difference between you qualifying for the Olympics or not, or being able to go to the finals or not. So it's essential to make sure that not just pushing water, but also pushing the electrolytes. And there's tons of electrolyte options out there, and depending on the type of activity that you're doing, certain beverages are better than others, which I'm going to go into. But going to the fasted part you were talking about with people just trying to lose weight, cutting calories, intermittent fasting, doing keto, whatever it is, and they're robbing themselves of the entire macro group or decreasing the time that they're actually able to get all of their energy needs fulfilled. I'm going to go into breaking down what is the purpose of those macronutrients and how they work. So the macronutrients that we're going to talk about is first carbohydrates. Carbohydrates is our primary energy source that our body needs for performance. Our muscle has a capacity to store carbohydrates in the form of glycogen. It's stored carbohydrates. And the muscles like to keep its glycogen levels filled because it has to move you around throughout life and it has to have a fuel source. So whenever you're exercising, you actually are using your glycogen stores. But if you don't replenish it back with an adequate post-workout meal or snack or going into a workout with a proper amount of fuel, you're going to notice that you can't perform well. You're going to hit a wall. And I'm sure anyone who's exercised, you get to a certain level, you're like, I just can't get past it. You probably have ran out of your glycogen stores, and now something that should have been aerobic is now anaerobic because you have ran out of your stores there. So we definitely need carbohydrates for sure because that's our energy source. That's our gas to our engine. So we definitely need that. And then protein. Okay, I know in this country we push a lot of protein, but you cannot have protein without carbohydrates. They wrap around each other. They're like partners in crime, and they push each other. So the carbohydrate actually pushes the protein to where it needs to go. It's like the vehicle to push things there. So protein, obviously, we need that for building muscle. Because if you're weightlifting and you have any type of muscle soreness, those are micro tears that you've created in that exercise. So you definitely need the protein to help rebuild that muscle, so that way you can get that mass, or you can lift heavier the next time there. So we definitely need that. So we're going through carbohydrates, we're going through protein. Fat. We need fat, guys. Not the fats coming from pork rinds or butter or anything like that, but like Pearlman mentioned, like the avocados, your nuts and things like that. We need that for hormone regulation. We definitely need that, and also to lubricate those joints and make sure things are moving smoothly there. So definitely need to have the healthy fats in there. And then the last micronutrient, it doesn't provide necessarily with energy, but it does provide us play an essential role, is water. So we definitely have to have water for sure, because we're 70% water. So we have to keep filling this cup to make sure that we're well hydrated. And one of the things too that I often see is that hunger and dehydration often get confused. They're in the same part of the brain. So oftentimes when you think you're hungry, you're actually probably dehydrated. But out in the military, we will always say, if you're waiting on thirst, you're already behind.
It's funny you just said that. I was gonna say that there's like an age-old saying where it says if you think you're thirsty, or you're even a little bit of thirsty, you're dehydrated.
Yes.
And that was one of the keys, especially talking about athletes in two-a-days. I mean, these athletes are incredibly dehydrated.
Yes.
And I hope, at least by now, my hopes is that, especially for the younger kids out there, I hope the coaches are giving adequate time for hydration and having things like Powerade around, not just water.
Yes, absolutely. And going to like the types of beverages for hydration is if you are working out less than 30 minutes, you don't need Powerade. You don't need Gatorade. You don't need any of that, because you have not expended.
You're literally taking my thought. Go ahead. Continue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it's perfect. It's perfect.
So yeah, so if you're working out 30 minutes or less, you don't need to rehydrate with any type of Gatorade or Powerade, anything like that. You don't need that. There hasn't been enough demand or enough electricity that you have expended to require that at all. So in especially if you're doing something like Gatorade that has like the regular Gatorade has sugar and things like that, you can kind of be undoing your efforts because you've added sugar, that you didn't need to utilize. So definitely 30 minutes or less of like a normal exercise should just be water. And
do you mind if I?
Yeah, go ahead, interject. Yeah.
So this is perfect, because what you're talking about, I think this is, I have to input now before I forget.
Yeah.
Which is, so say that I am counseling someone in more of the old school Dr. Pearlman ketogenic approach, or even what I did to lose weight, which is 20 to 30 minute moderate to low steady state cardio, which is a predominantly fat burning zone.
Zone 2.
Remember what I just said, everybody, fat burning zone. It means not dependent on glycogen and glucose stores in order to perform.
Yes.
A lot of what Russ just talked about is actually speaking to a higher level of performance, not athlete, but just individual who's performing for a greater purpose, if you will.
Yeah.
If you're going to swim the butterfly, if you're going to do a 200-meter sprint, if you are a football player, a baseball player, or a basketball player, you're on the bike doing intervals, now we're talking about a different zone that's going to demand glucose and glycogen stores.
Zone 3, zone 4, yes.
And what I want to do is also give everyone a visual before I hand the mic, the reins back to Russ, which is, if you've ever seen CrossFit athletes who are the champions, right, the best of the best, the Rich Fronings of the world, they're a lot bigger and stockier than the leanest athletes who never really reached the podium, if you will. Because the lean athletes probably don't eat as much carbohydrates and or carbohydrate and fat combinations that the upper echelon athletes do, because they understand that the power output is so important
you have hit
to build
the
that
nail
motor.
on the head.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy you said that. In terms of our storage depot. So yes, those ones who are lifting the heavier weights have to put out more power. They have bulkier, bigger muscles, right? Because they need that immediate power, that glycogen that I was telling you about. So the more worked, the more demand put on a muscle, the bigger it gets, right? And given that I said in the beginning that your body, your glycogen, your muscles like to have a certain amount of glycogen that it likes to store, it likes to keep its glycogen levels filled. Yes, the more demand, the more work, the more glycogen you're able to store, which circles back to those with diabetes, insulin resistance. The resistance training is going to be your friend in terms of giving you that resiliency to be able to stabilize your blood sugars after a meal, because that's where you're, again, the muscles. So the more tone, the more work you're doing with your muscles, the more storage depot you're going to have, more flexibility you're going to have in terms of being able to eat more variety of foods there. So yes. So yeah, those who don't do as much weightlifting or kind of do more, endurance type things, they're thinner, so they're mostly using their, they are using glycogen, but they are using more like their fat stores. Yeah.
Using fat stores, and they're also actually losing more muscle than they realize. Like even when I was getting really lean, I didn't even understand how much muscle I was losing. Now here I am, 4 or 5 years, 6 years later from that period, I do understand how much muscle I was losing.
Yeah.
Is it bad? Is it good? Well, it's relative.
It's relative. Depends on the goal, because I've had athletes who, doing their peak performance period of their life, they're stocky, they're big, and they're like, you know what, I'm not really into training for that event. I want to get a little bit more leaned out. So their whole plan definitely changes. They're not doing as much load, still weightlifting, but they're not putting that much load on. They're doing a little bit more cardio, that sort of thing. So yes, I'm happy that you mentioned that, because that is so, so key, especially when it comes to insulin resistance, as well as just weight management, because the afterburn of weightlifting, cardio is just right in the moment, it's transactional. What you put in is what you get out, and that's it. It's a one-time thing. Versus resistance training, you're going to have a burn that's going to last for a day or two, because your bodies are rebuilding and repairing, and you're just going to be burning more calories just sitting here. So it's definitely a good weight management strategy. So going into what you said about the berries, the bananas, those sorts of things, the slow burning carbohydrates there. Yes, we definitely want to have carbohydrates that are strategically placed when it comes to exercise. So let's say you wake up first thing in the morning, you have now fasted, and some people say they can't work out with food in their stomach. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I mean, historically, I really didn't do well. I would cramp a lot if I ate something, especially that didn't agree with me. Number one, that's the problem, was back in the day, I didn't have a good diet. Okay. So if I woke up and I had cereal, which I haven't had cereal in 25 years, 30 years, but let's just say that was the case. Probably if I had any kind of meat, so even say I had sausage, I don't even eat sausage anymore, bacon.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. But now if I have a little bit of fruit, it doesn't bother me prior to working out.
Okay. Yeah, so first thing in the morning, you wake up and you're an early riser and you just want to get your workout done. Some people get really nauseous, and they just can't have food in their stomach. But some people believe that if they work out on an empty stomach, they're going to burn more calories, because they're like, I'm forcing my body to use the fat, No, it does not. If anything, your metabolism is going to become very thrifty, and it's going to idle down, almost like an electric vehicle. It's going to use less energy to help perform that activity, because it still has to maintain energy to perform the essential functions, keeping you alive.
So elaborate on that.
Okay.
Because it is now, and the first thing I'll say is, if you perform at a low level of cardio, you will burn more fat.
Yes, low level.
/ you'll probably still lose some muscle.
Low
level, absolutely.
Low level.
100% agree.
Low level, yes.
But if you're going to go do something purposeful, where you're going to flex some muscle, you're going to go at a high intensity.
Like HIIT or something like that.
Yeah, go ahead. Now take please.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Low level, you can do okay. If it's 30 minutes, low level, you're okay. Because it's mainly, you're going to burn a little fat. It's going to help lower your blood sugars during that moment. But you definitely have to fuel afterwards. And you have a 45-minute recovery window afterwards that you need to get some food in. Otherwise, your liver is going to start making new sugar for you, and that type of sugar is definitely going to come with more insulin resistant properties. And that whole day, you're just going to be in fat storage mode. So.
And that's how you develop physiologic insulin resistance.
Yes.
It's at least it's a component of it.
It's a component of
which is what a lot of people who go longer term keto and zero carb for a long time end up having.
Yes. But your body knows it needs carbs. So back to what you were saying about burning the muscle. It's going to burn up that muscle to create the process of gluconeogenesis. It's going to create its own new sugar because it needs it. So yes, so something that I have done with my athletes or those who don't like to eat, I encourage them to drink a kind of like a clear protein, like a powder that you can add to your water. At least have enough protein circulating if they're going to go in and do some crazy weightlifting or whatever, just to try to preserve their muscle mass during that intense workout. But what we have noticed is that once they hit like that 45-minute period, they start getting like dizzy, off balance. So I do encourage them to take some type of protein bar that they can pause and eat during the workout if they're planning to go a little bit further. Yeah.
Did you ever see that Peloton advertisement? It's a new one where the lady's on the bike and she's spinning. She's like 6 miles or 5 miles in, 10 miles in, 20 miles in, and then she just like keeps putting more stuff on her face. And she's got like a chocolate bar, and then she has like a smoothie, and then it's like a piece of pizza or something.
Oh my God! No, I haven't seen that, but
it's hilarious.
I mean, if you are running long distances, because I'm a runner. For those who can't see me, I am a runner, and yeah, you do need some fuel at some point, not that frequently though. Like, oh my God, like this is too much. And it goes to another point too, in terms of the type of exercise. If you're running, let's say, and you're running for a long period of time, you want to eat things that doesn't require a lot of digestive activity, because your body is trying to push energy to your muscles to get you through the activity, but then you don't want to redirect everything to your gut. If you do that, you will be going to the bathroom for sure. You will have dumping syndrome that will happen. So, but yeah, so we definitely want slow burning foods going most intentionally after the workout, because we don't want to have those huge spikes and rises and falls. You can have more of a high glycemic option, like some fruit or something like that before a workout to give you some quick energy, especially if you're going to go for 45 minutes or more. We definitely want to have those types of foods there. But in terms of inflammatory perspective, we definitely want more slow burning foods. So things that are whole grains, things that are paired with a protein or a fat. So like what that looks like, apple and a peanut butter, or if you do a banana with some nuts, just so that when things are slowing down. Because otherwise you're going to have what we call reactive lows, where you're okay doing the exercise and you're okay hour after, but then after that hour, you just start tanking and you cannot keep up if you don't have a balanced, low-burning carbohydrate. That's why you get the munchies. And that's why a lot of runners have a sweet tooth if they don't fuel correctly. They're always hunting for sweets.
That must have happened to me. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, that's me. I mean, when I was running all the time and, at my leanest, even when I was, like, eating healthy, but, like, I was always craving sweets. Yeah. And, like, the way that I combated that was, like, I'd probably have, like, a bulletproof coffee with nut butter and, put a little liquid stevia.
Hold up. You did that before your run?
No. This was, like, after.
Oh, after. Oh, okay.
And, like, I'm talking, like, after and, like, almost, like, all day. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, you definitely...
I can't drink coffee before a run.
No, that's asking for.
Yeah, that's that right quadrant cramping and sharp pain stuff right there.
Oh, you have more than cramping. You're going straight to the bathroom.
I would always have to find a dumpster to go pee behind,
Yes.
Make sure no police are around. Yeah.
Yes. No, that is, oh my God. That is something that happens to a lot of runners and those who do like long endurance sports. Yeah. They have a sweet tooth from, oh my God. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Did I miss anything?
No, but just talking about that, having a sweet tooth, I think the audience needs to understand two things. One, we kind of mentioned right out of the chute, which is you can't out-train a bad diet.
No.
But when we're talking about having things that are of the sweet tooth variety, or having, making sure you're eating enough to like maintain your physique, depending on what that is. Say you're not in weight loss, say you're in like a maintaining kind of a zone. Like there's a reason why somebody who to lose weight will be on like a 13 to 1500 calorie restrictive diet, if you will. When I say restrictive, it's because you need to burn more than what you're taking in.
Create a deficit.
And then once they've reached their goal weight, they have something like a 24 to 2500 calorie a day allowance. And that's because the algorithm has taken into account that, one, you've lost all this weight and you have this amount of activity. And two, once you're an athlete with doing purposeful training exercises, and yes, that means you out there who's 50 years old and has, I don't know, maybe it's a New Year's resolution, maybe it's not, but now over a 6-month period have been training every day. And we should all exercise every day.
Yeah.
And then you're now doing like 45 minutes of weight, HIIT, high intensity interval training. Maybe you're running more than 25 minutes, mile and a half, mile and 3/4. Maybe you're wearing a heart rate monitor and you're getting to that point where you're like in the higher zone, zone 3, zone 4 training. Well, guess what? You now need to eat more than that zone 1, zone 2 type of athlete, which is what I used to do when I lost a lot of weight. It was real simple. I'd run between 20 to 30 minutes and I ate a ketogenic diet. But guess what? Nowadays, if I was to train, knowing what I know now, I would be probably exercising more of like 25 to 45 minutes doing high intensity interval training along with some lower, lower paced cardio days. But I play plenty of tennis and it's just not feasible to just eat a ketogenic diet because A, I would not be feeding my muscles nearly enough. Mm-hmm. 2, my kidneys / adrenal system would be taxed all the time. 3, I'd be starving for glucose at various points all the time. And then what? Because I think I can't have a carbohydrate where I'd be metabolically healthy at this point and have some nuts and seeds, fruit and honey.
You hit the nail on the head on that in terms of when it's appropriate to kind of go, not promoting one diet or the other, but whenever you're trying to create a huge deficit, but it's a time limit on it, right?
Yeah.
Like you were saying, like you try to do that activity now at your lean state, you don't have enough reserve.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like keto, what ketones are, is the impartial breakdown of fat. Well, if you don't have enough fat to break down, then the next thing to go is your muscle. And that's the last thing that we want to compromise, because one of the things too is that when you're losing weight, your metabolism actually decreases because it's less of a demand for your body to host a large body. You don't have a large body anymore, so therefore the energy need has declined. So in order to stay ahead of that, that's why people regain the weight back. If they're not incorporating things that is zone 3, zone 4, resistance training, things like that, if you slip up even for a week or two, you're going to gain that weight back because you just don't have the capacity metabolically to burn off those extra calories versus someone that's more lean.
And isn't it sad that we both have, we'll just call it, we both have clients, we both know people, we both maybe have been there in the past. I don't know about you. But somebody will be quote unquote doing all the right things.
Yes.
And then maybe they step on the scale, which I just hate the scale. Or they look in the mirror and they'd be like a little bloated because maybe they had like a little bit of not a reaction, just they
water retention from extra carbs,
thank you.
That sort of thing.
That sort of thing.
It happens. It absolutely happens.
And then they think like they're failing or they somehow they got fat.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
That's why it really is a stick-to-itiveness, a long-term process, and understanding it's like, well, I only ate what was on the dietary plan kind of thing. It's like, good.
Right, but also
keep doing it.
But also too, if you're having those huge swings like that, where, let's say you're doing perfect, but then you went on holiday and then blew up 30 pounds or whatever it is. You need to don't beat yourself up. Look back and say, okay, something about what I was doing was so restrictive that my body could not adapt to me switching to another eating pattern to cause me to hold on to this much water, that sort of thing. So you have to see like, okay, in my day-to-day life, am I going too restrictive to where I don't have that metabolic flexibility to respond to calorie cycling, because we don't eat the same amount of calories every day. We just don't.
Right.
And it's good that we don't, because we need to train our body to adapt, not just in this one steady state. But if you're just staying so low the whole time and all of a sudden you go on holiday and you increase, it's not
going to fall apart.
It's going to fall apart.
100%. And that's why I have this saying that I love to talk about, which is health on a spectrum and everything within a range.
I love that. Health on a spectrum.
Health on a spectrum.
I love that.
Yeah. Like, there's no such thing as just being like keto. It's ketogenic. There's no such thing as I only have 1,500 calories a day. That's what my chart says. That's what my app allowed me. That's what my trainer said. Oh, really? What's going to happen if you eat 1,501? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's what I try to put through like my clients' heads.
Yeah.
That's what I try to communicate to my patients and my loved ones, my friends. It's like, because it's true. And like my wife, who is the queen of getting things down to a science on her protein calculator, and she tracks all the calories, and she's
oh my God.
Yeah, it's crazy. She's great at it. That's the thing. She's right. But the issue is she'll get to the point where she's like, ooh, I reached my 100 grams of carbohydrates, or like today's my low carb day. I can't. It's like, it's an apple.
Yes.
Like, you're metabolically flexible, Jen. Like, have the apple.
Yes.
Now,
absolutely.
I'm probably, I know that I'm different, where that spectrum and or the range is like squeezed in a bit tighter. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, we gotta, if you're doing the right consistent thing, which someone like Jen is. Yeah. Man, we gotta.
You do have to have some flexibility, just like I said, just to train your body to adapt.
Yeah.
It's like anything. It's like weightlifting or some type of exercise. You do the same routine over and over again, and then all of a sudden you go up to higher amount. Like, you're gonna fall apart, but it's progressive. It's on a spectrum.
Ooh, progressive. We're getting progressive motion. Hey, now we can tell people, instead of being like, hey, I earned this brownie, and they're like, or I earned this beer, they'll be like, I need to be metabolically flexible.
Oh my God, I can't.
I got my trainer, my nutritionist, my dietitian says that I have to be metabolically flexible.
It's my flex day. It's flexing. I love it. So before we get to because I know we have people listening who have weight concerns or diabetes, and they may say, well, how much should I be working out? And so
every day.
Should definitely be doing something daily for sure.
Yeah.
Exercise and being physically active are two different things. Yeah. Exercise is more structured, geared towards a goal, Physical activities is how much we're moving about in our day to day, and those two things go hand in hand. Yeah. So from an exercise perspective, if you're trying to just manage your blood sugars, it's 150 minutes of moderate intense aerobic activity per week, and then 2 days of resistance training. And it's typically on the cadence of kind of like a every other day situation for like the resistance training, but you should never go more than 2 days consecutively without movement. That's just going to revert you back into insulin resistance, and it's going to cause your numbers to be more unstable. So if you're just starting out, the 150 minutes of aerobic activity looks like 30 minutes, 5 days a week. But you can definitely split it up into 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the PM, if you're trying to build yourself back up into that. Now, that doesn't mean that you just do your 15 minutes of moderate activity, go sit on the couch or sit down at your desk all day, and then end of the day do another 15 minutes. No, that's that in-between time. That's that physical activity. We have to keep mobile so we can keep our blood sugars moving. If we're sitting down all day, our blood sugars are not moving. It's just staying in our blood. The muscles have no need for it because there's no demand. So in terms of a step perspective, at minimum, if you're sedentary, at minimum 5,000 steps a day. If you've just been, really sedentary, like an office job, you don't really move, and then you go and drive in the car for an hour to go home, and then you go home and sit on the couch, and then you go to bed. You need at minimum 5,000 steps per day, but the sweet spot to just kind of keep things flowing is 7,500 steps per day, just to keep your blood sugars stable. For those who are looking to lose weight, the recommendations are a little bit different in terms of the aerobic and the resistance training. For a moderate intensity aerobic activity, it's actually 200 to 300 minutes per week for a moderate aerobic intensity. And so to determine what moderate is, it is you can hold a conversation while doing the exercise, but you're breathing heavy. So it's not you can just keep reeling out like we're doing now, where you're just not taking a breath or whatever. Like you need to take a breath. That's the moderate intensity level. If you're looking at your beats per minute, your heart rate, basically general calculation, you take 220 minus your age times 0.6 or 0.75, and that's kind of where you want to be there for your moderate intensity level.
You just took me back to the University of Rhode Island. Kinesiology major.
Yeah.
Okay. Flashback.
And then for resistance training for weight loss is anywhere from like 3 to 4 days, depending on what your goal is for resistance training. Because mind you, like I said before, your metabolism drops when you lose weight, and we want to make sure we're putting enough resistance training to maintain that weight loss. You're going to need a few more days of resistance training. So that's what it looks like in terms of how much to get in to either achieve blood sugars or to achieve weight loss. So just want to make sure I address that.
Very thorough.
You're welcome.
That's why you're like the pros pro.
That's why I'm here. I'm here to serve.
Here to serve.
Here to serve.
Get clients results.
That's it. And also too, it's more about a lifestyle, not a diet. If you are active, doing something every day, and 5 days a week you're killing it, weekends can kill you. No, on that weekend you need to find something that's fun. Doesn't have to be as structured, as exercise, but it's something fun that gets you outside, gets you moving, whether it's gardening, mowing your yard, or taking a hike, playing pickleball, tennis, just something fun just to get your body moving, because there's no breaks. Like, we have to stay in motion, but we definitely just want to make sure that it's a lifestyle. So you have to find what your fitness personality is. Not everyone likes weightlifting. Some people like Pilates. Some people like bar, or if you don't like walking, you like to do cardio dance. You have to find your fitness personality so that way you can stick with it. And that's the same thing when it comes to your diet. If you know you are one that is a foodie and try to go on a restrictive diet, you have taken away who you are as a person. You like to explore the world through food. You just have to you have to find that balance there to keep it. So
find balance, be honest with yourself,
100%.
Understand that the information, pertains to you. It applies to you. Some people think it doesn't, and somehow there's like a way around it, but everything that you've so elaborated on so beautifully in this podcast is the way it is, guys. Like, that's why we're sitting here putting this together for you, and sharpening our pencils to put it on paper for y'all.
Yes.
Through the audio waves.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Whenever you're seeing someone who has come to you needing an adjustment, maybe they have an office job and they're sitting and they're hunched over and their core is weak and they're having all kinds of lower back pains and all those things there.
Yeah. And
you give them the lifestyle prescription of, doing core exercises, getting up and walking, that sort of thing. How has that impacted their number of adjustments or how long an adjustment lasts?
Okay, so it's funny. I was just having this conversation with somebody yesterday.
Okay.
To say that an adjustment lasts is really saying something along the lines of like, how good was my adjustment biomechanically on the segment or segments that person needed that day?
Okay.
And then if that pressure got off the nervous system, based off of what I won't say implying, but like kind of what you said, like what exercises and things they do on a day-to-day will help reinforce it / so it feels like it lasts. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and everyone's different. It's really case by case dependent on how bad of a joint degenerative and or disc injury they have.
Okay.
That creates like the tone and tension in the spinal area, because there are people that hips are so tight, psoas is so short they have such a bad L5 lumbar disc, which is like the most common one to be bad,
Okay.
meaning compressed, probably have some annular fiber tears and some disc bulging. Like that person, if they just don't make every single effort to roll their psoas, use the Theragun, do some stretches, very yoga-centric kind of stuff, if they don't activate their glutes, stimulate their glute medius,
Meaning
get up and make sure that they're doing some amount of work during the day just to stay loose, but also like have a full-blown like routine.
Okay.
For example, and now I'm going to totally answer the question, but for example, I told you this before, almost every day that I'm in the office, which people may not know, I'm only in my office like 3.5 days a week, but I go to the gym almost every single day across the street for 20 minutes, and I do an exclusively like glute-centric, lumbosacral-centric, like back strengthening, stabilization routine, and I come back to the office.
Okay.
If everyone that I work with who has a great adjustment, who's maybe the pain is like creeping back in, who doesn't just flat out have like degenerative disc disease, let's say, or stenosis, that's terrible, which they should probably consult a surgeon anyways. Well, that's for another day. Like they have to do that same thing that I talked about what I do.
The 20 minutes.
The 20 minutes. Like they have to have an intentional routine on top of everything we talked about, which is getting up and moving around. Make sure you take a walk for 5-6 minutes. Raise your arms above your head. Take your torso and rotate side to side. Lift your legs. Stand on one leg. Activate your glutes. Roll around on a foam roller. Literally, that is what it takes. As we both know, because if you do nothing and all you do is sit there and stare at that screen and reinforce the lengthened posterior chain and that shortened psoas and the neck going forward and all that, you're just going to be coming back to me as much as humanly possible, which is fine. I mean, that's what I'm there for. You're going to feel a whole lot better after you get adjusted.
But you're going to keep kind of regressing back because you're putting your body back in that same environment.
Absolutely.
The same state that got you tight and contorted and all those things there.
It's so relatable to bad eating, like bad posture. It's kind of, I made that video I was talking about yesterday, the chiropractic and nutrition, the simple link. Eat all the bad foods and expect to like feel good and not be extra heavy and have extra love handles and puffy cheeks and the whole nine. Ain't gonna happen. Go to the chiropractor and then like never roll your psoas muscle and never use a Theragun and never do a nice, a stretch that's good for you. Don't, get up and walk. Don't do intentional exercise, and your body's gonna be sore and tight and hurt.
Absolutely. I'm happy you mentioned about the stretching and all of that. That is, especially if you have a desk job, a sit-down job. I always tell my clients to, at the tail end of the hour, like about the last 5 minutes of the hour, get up and do something stretching. Because that stretching improves circulation, it gets the blood moving. And just by doing that can also help with, one, just the stress hormones that's built up from you answering a million emails and trying to reach deadlines, but also to just help wake the muscles up because it's gone cold. After an hour of sitting there, it's gone cold. So definitely just take 3 to 5 minutes of doing some type of movement there. So with that said, back to the question, make sure I hear you. If someone comes in for an adjustment, they get the return on the adjustment by keeping their body in motion so that we don't get stiff.
Yes.
Because your muscles have a memory, right? Like they kind of revert back to...
Yeah, they're neuron firing patterns. So like for people that aren't into like funk neuro and people that don't understand like the way the brain works and all the different components of the brain and the body and the stimulus and brain to body, body back to brain and how chiropractic and stimulation to the body works, they look at it as muscle memory. That's not wrong. They're habitual patterns.
Okay.
It's the reason why my back still thinks that it can blow up at any moment. Because 20 years of having that kind of back pain, from having absolutely no space around my L4, L5, there is a price to have paid, and my body still thinks that when it gets a little stiff, how is my ringer on? Literally, my ringer's off, but it's ringing.
You must have it set to where you have people who can bypass it. So if you have like a VIP person.
That's not a VIP person. I guess the telemarketers are VIPs these days. They call me so much. But I think, what was I saying?
Oh, about the neural pattern.
Oh yeah, muscle memory, neural
Yeah.
patterns, and so that's what happens. They call it's actually fair learned behavior when it comes to pain, and when it comes to just like a tight right back, a tight left calf.
So you have to retrain.
Oh yeah.
You have to retrain your body, because if it has this neural pattern or this fear-based mechanism that it's used to holding on to, even in your most relaxed state, it thinks like, oh crap, like I need to, lean this way or move this way. Okay, so so that makes a lot of sense.
And it's good. And I hardly ever give any credit to physical therapists, and people that know me know that I don't mean it in like in a mean way, a malicious way. It's more just me being me and kind of like silly. But like a good physical therapist, like the best physical therapists in the world who focus on the post-surgical rehab or brain injury, rehab, like serious injury where like people like have to relearn how to walk.
Yes.
Let me tell you, the people that work in that realm, they are amazing, and they're also the type of people that do what we're talking about now. Because, like, for example, my doors would be closed if I tried to like retrain a habitual pattern to somebody who, whatever, like it takes so much time and intensity. But just to elaborate on like the muscle memory aspect of it and like retraining, the body from sitting all day even. It's a real thing. It's real intensive therapy to make those kinds of changes, just like changing your body on the outside.
Yeah. Oh my God, that could definitely be for another episode. But I'm just sitting here thinking about just, someone that like going back to the physiotherapist, they're trying to retrain just the muscle to brain connection.
Yeah.
And for someone transitioning from a sedentary person to an active person, just that brain to muscle connection, like it's just mind blowing. So oh my God, you can open up some windows there. So we just wanted to high level just give you guys an understanding that you have to fuel for performance, and if you are requiring a great demand from your body to go through intense workouts, long workouts, you have to, just like a car going for a long road trip, you're going to have to make some gas stops at some point. And those gas stops can either be the pre-fueling before you encounter the road trip, if you're going to go a long distance. If you're not going to go a long distance, your car can probably make it, but also too, if you want to keep that engine clean and keep it well running, you have to do things like balancing your macronutrients, your fats, your proteins, your carbohydrates, as well as your water, which is the medium for everything. Yeah. So with that said, don't punish your body to earn food. That's not the case at all. Because there are some people like, I worked out all day, I have room for this whole pizza.
Oh man, I just burned 150 calories. I'm going to go and eat this croissant. That's like, stop.
That's not how that works. We want to fuel our body in a way that it has the nutrients and energy that it needs to rebuild, repair, and recover. So that way you can go hard into the next exercise, as well as get the return on investment on your exercise by burning calories more just by doing your day-to-day. That's the whole purpose of it. So we hope that you got something from this podcast. But like I said, there should be a freebie coming for those who listened. And Pearlman will be able to put that information in the description box on how to get that freebie in terms of what to eat before, what to eat after, as well as a sample exercise structure, what that should look like throughout the week.
Yeah, it'll be in the links, guys. Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Along with any snippets we do, we will leave the links to the free PDFs that we're going to associate with this podcast. And we always have the Russ Powell Registered Dietitian Instagram. Check her out. What is it called now?
I am on Instagram. I am the Fat Loss Diabetes Dietitian. The moment you put fat loss in, you'll see my face on there. And I'm Russ Powell. And you need any help with understanding how insulin resistance works in food and exercise or weight management, I am your girl. I can definitely help you with that.
Absolutely. I second that beyond a second. And Dr. Pearlman TV, that's all one word, guys. Dr. Pearlman TV. And you can see things that have been up on my channel for between Instagram and YouTube and the Dr. Pearlman Podcast for like the last 4 years.
Yes, and I think you do have a stretch routine on your YouTube.
Yeah, I just made a new stretch routine as there's been a little bit more, how should I say, pertinent in my life. So there's a pretty good, safe daily stretch for people that sit a lot and could use that.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Until next time, guys.
Bye.